big story today hitting the terminal is JPMorgan's Marko Kolanovic leaving the firm. This is a guy who I remember I wrote about him in 2015.
Bear Stearns-ish at JPMorgan?
Well, back then, Marko was the first guy to really start writing about how the quant trades were influencing the markets. You know, the volatility targeting, commodity trading advisors, CTAs. No one had really unpacked any of that before he did, starting about a decade ago. And his first sort of couple years on the scene there, he was eerily correct. I remember I referred to him as Gandalf in a column in 2015.
Did you invent that phrase for him, Gandalf?
I
Were
did,
you the one that wrote that?
For better or worse, I did.
My word, we're among royalty.
But he's not quite Gandalf in the last few years. And I think it's just, look, the stock market's insanely complicated. He did really have eerily correct calls there for several years based on basically the influence of the quants on the market. So I don't know, why he's been wrong, what in his methodology is causing him to be too bearish the last few years.
I'm sure JPMorgan they don't do these things lightly, because your strategist is really the face of your research department in a lot of ways, to the media, for example. So but he was wrong in 2022 when the markets were down.
Right.
And then he's missed the rally. So that's two big strikes.
Right. And, to be sure, we don't really know exactly why he left. I mean, I think, we can jump to the conclusion that if you're wrong for a couple years straight, you're probably not, your career's not going to last too long at a big bank like JPMorgan. A big bank like that doesn't want to be out there as sort of the most bearish voice on Wall Street. It just doesn't make sense for a sell side firm to be that way. And so, especially when you're wrong about it for a couple of years going, you can imagine there is some pressure there.